This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Sean Preston.
Welcome to today's episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. We have a great neighbor on with us today. That is Kathryn from Coulter Veterinary Hospice Services. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having us. It's a delight.
We're a pleasure to have you guys on the show. You still working on your second coffee? Where are you at? It's pretty early this morning.
It is for sure. I'm just into my second one, but to be fair, I always get a large at Tim Hortons. So I, what can I say? I guess second coffee feels kind of more like the third if you're going that big.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm working on my second one too. So we'll see if we can pump this one out. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your business.
So Dr. Coulter's Veterinary Services, also our nickname is Heart with Wings, which I think most people are more familiar with. We're a hospice, senior and end-of-life veterinary mobile service. So the idea is Heart with Wings was founded by Dr. Laura Coulter because she had in her personal life experienced end-of-life care and senior care. And she felt like when it comes to the veterinarian world, the expectation in the veterinary world is basically all veterinarians are supposed to be 100% knowledgeable about all diseases, all issues from cradle to grave. So realistically, if you think about it, being an expert in, teeth and eyes and ears and this and that, it's a lot to expect from any veterinarian. And she felt like she really had a passion for seniors. She really had a passion for end-of-life care in a, quality of life focused setting. So she specifically founded Heart with Wings with the idea that she wanted to not specialize, but focus 100% of our time on senior care. So basically, we reach out to, or families reach out to us when their animals hit their senior years, and we just help them through that transition, maintaining their comfort, talking to owners about what it can look like, preparing them, and just kind of helping them all the way to that final moment, that final goodbye, where we're there with them as well, helping them go through that really tough, heart-wrenching experience of saying goodbye to their babies in a really, honestly, the best word I can think of is like a really beautiful setting. Usually we're in owners' homes. The pet is on their most cherished bed. The process is really beautiful and gentle and really focused on their time, their quality of life, their comfort. And then we also provide aftercare as well. So that is something that's also really unique to us, is that we provide aftercare in that we look after the pets until they're maybe returned to the owner in an urn, or potentially we actually also, if owners don't want to have their urns returned to them, we put their babies to rest in a private park in Algonquin as well. So we really are with our families from the very moment where their animal is starting to go through that transition of their senior years all the way to the end. So in that, we're kind of unique and kind of special, because that's really where we've put all of our time, all of our focus, so that we're able to be there 100% of the time during those like really formative, really intense years with their families.
Okay, so you guys aren't doing like regular checkups and stuff like that. This is more like, okay, my dog is probably lifespan 12 to 15. So, we hit the 12th birthday. Now that would be a good idea for me, let's say, to then reach out to you guys and say, okay, we've got, maybe 3 or 4, depending on, if there's any issues that you're, I guess, visually seeing with your animal, and then kind of going through the motions from there.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea. But like, we will provide senior assessments. So like, we'll even, we'll see a 7-year-old or 8-year-old dog, and we may still do vaccinations, but we're going to be talking about, okay, we're starting to see some hip degeneration. How do we focus on that? How do we help provide supplementation to help slow that that degeneration? What does it look like when your animal's in pain? How do you recognize that their pain has gone from a level 2 to a level 3? We're really walking them through that process and providing as many resources as we possibly can to make sure they're as effectively equipped to handle those years of that transition, so that they can stay on top of their pet's pain, they can stay on top of their degeneration, they can they can understand when something has changed, because in our senior years, things do change very quickly, especially for our pets, right? Because, we unfortunately, we don't get as much time with them as we do with our fellow human beings. So they do, when they make that transition into their senior years, it can sometimes even be like day to day, week to week, month to month. And for us to be able to provide that constant, um, resource that we are, to be able to help them through that process, like that's exactly what we're for. In a lot of ways, when it comes to our families, we kind of become their family, because we're seeing them and we're talking to them on such a regular basis, more so than you would in a general practice. Like, I'm not reaching out to a 6-month-old puppy every week being like, hey, how you doing? You okay? You good? But when it comes to a 12-year-old cat who has diabetes, I am checking in on them every week. I am asking them how they're doing every week. And we are touching base a lot and having a lot of open communication, because it can be so day to day, week to week, and so on and so forth.
Right. Yeah. So I would imagine, everybody out there, even for our listeners, everybody does a different job, right?
Yes.
And I would say something like my job's pretty happy. Usually I get a really happy business owner, business operator coming on the show, get to give them a voice, they get to chat. We do have some laughing, some talking. And then there are other jobs in the world, like in your profession, where it's not necessarily so happy on a day-to-day basis. And it really takes, in my opinion, a really special person to do, jobs like nursing. We had Teresa McLennan on from the Women's and Children's Shelter. It takes, special people to do special jobs. I would put your job in that category. How do you, and what processes do you guys take, in your day-to-day to try to, keep your mental sanity with this stuff? Because, I'm not going to discount or say people to dogs or cats or, animals are different, because when you lose a human being, 100%, it's devastating, but pets can be just as devastating, if not more devastating. So, seeing that and knowing that you guys are animal lovers, how are you guys keeping it upbeat on day to day?
That's such a beautiful question. And I actually get asked that question fairly often. One of the first or second things a family will say to me during, a visit when I'm with them is, how do you do this every day? Like, this is so sad. And it is absolutely, I cry, I weep, I'm with those families 100%. And I myself am a pet owner. I've got my babies at home, so I've experienced the devastation of losing a pet. And you're so right in that, like, in some ways, I almost feel like it's not comparable comparing a human death to a pet death, because the relationship we have with our pets is 24/7. We're waking up, they're waking us up, they're like, we're feeding them, we're making sure they're going out to the bathroom, or we're cleaning their litter box. And it's so all encompassing when it comes to, like, we're scheduling our lives around these babies. Whereas with other humans, eventually, depending on whether or not, like, it might be your kid, you're not really scheduling your life around them anymore. It's a very different bond, because it's almost like, I would almost compare it to more like it's like a soul bond almost, like it's a lot more intimate. So losing that and saying goodbye to them is probably the most devastating, the hardest thing that you can possibly experience. So for me and for us here at Heart with Wings, when it comes to acknowledging that we're a part of that devastation and that we're helping families through that devastation, as much as, I have tough days, we all have tough days, and, we all feel sorrow for our families. But to know that we're able to be there for them in a way that's different, like, I think a big misunderstanding when it comes to Heart with Wings or Dr. Coulter's veterinary services is we're just like every other veterinary practice, except we come to your home. Like, that's it. But that can't be more far from the truth, because we are dedicated day in, day out to making this process as beautiful, as comforting, as gentle as possible. In that, when I go to help a family, I'm there at their home for up to an hour and a half. In a veterinary practice, usually appointments are 20 to 30 minutes. And that's just because that's how it has to be. There's a lot to be done and there's a lot to see. Whereas I would only help maybe 2 to 3 families in a day, and that's my whole day. I'm not doing any more, I'm not doing any less. And in that moment, I am not only with that family, I'm a part of their family.
Yeah.
And I am walking them through the process at their pace. If they need a moment, we take that moment. I'm not in a rush because there is no rush. And to know that our process, even when it comes to the medicine, is just so ethical and so comfort based, pain quality based. For me personally, that's what gets me through my day. I've worked in general practice and I've worked at Heart with Wings now, and I can see the difference in terms of what that gives the family and the weight off their shoulders. I am coming in to bear that weight because it is really hard, and it's probably the hardest thing anybody can go through. So for me to come in and take that weight on my shoulders and take it from theirs, and to know it's not you making this decision, we are making this decision. We are helping. We are here for your pet. And in a lot of times I see at the end of the day, I see relief, and I see people who are able to walk away from losing their baby and able to start a grief process that doesn't involve guilt, that doesn't involve, resentment or feeling like they should have done something different. Instead, they are able to remember that moment as the beautiful and comforting experience that it is, because it is. I bring in freeze-dried steak from Costco and pepperettes for the dogs, and I bring brownies and Hershey Kisses, and we talk about their memories, and we talk about the beautiful moments that they've had in life and the beautiful memories, and I'm there with them, and I can hear all of the love they have for their really cherished baby. And for me, I I walk away feeling like I see the best of every human being. When I'm in that moment with that family, I feel like I walk away seeing true love, true compassion, true sincerity. And for me personally, and I think I can speak for everybody here at Art with Wings, if anything, we walk away from that so full of love and compassion that it doesn't weigh us down as much as the sorrow does, because we were able to help in a way that nobody else is able to help. And that gets us through our day, and that stops the sorrow from seeping into the point where we burn out because we helped. We're a team of helpers. All we want to do is help. So to know that we did in the most beautiful way, like, what more can you ask for? What more can you do? It's actually just a really beautiful experience.
You guys primarily cats and dogs, or is it you guys doing bunny rabbits and stuff like that too?
Absolutely. I've helped ferrets. I've helped guinea pigs. We've helped pigs. We can't do horses and cows only just because the logistics, it's just a little complicated.
Right.
But in all honesty, like the hope would be that we'd be able to help anybody and everybody, because we know that 100% if we're showing up to that door, that loved one is being treated with so much love and so much respect because we're there. So ideally, we'd like to help everybody if they need our help, obviously. But we're working on it. Like I said, we're only 6 years old, so we're still growing. We're still figuring it out.
Very nice. Not doing your part for that goodwill in the world. That's phenomenal. Okay, I'm really curious. I'd like to know, what was your journey like, and how and why did you get into doing what you do?
Oh, it's a good question. So I actually was going to be a teacher. I've got a family of teachers. And in high school, they were all like, well, you should just be a teacher, obviously. Like, that's just what you do. So I went to Ryerson University for sociology. Why not? And then I needed a part-time job because I was a broke, starving student. And I just sent my resume out to everybody. And I ended up getting a job at an animal clinic in Toronto as a veterinary assistant. And it was like a light bulb went off in my head. Like, it just clicked. And all of a sudden I was like, this is where I'm meant to be. This is my environment. I'd always loved animals. Like, I'd always kind of gravitated towards them. But the idea of working where animals were, hurt or they were sick, just broke my heart. But then I realized it's not that I'm seeing animals that are hurt or sick. I'm helping animals that are hurt or sick. I'm helping them feel better. And then it just kind of took off from there. I found out what an RVT is, a registered veterinary technician, because that was still, a lot of people are still even learning that that's a thing. And I was like, oh, okay, that's that's what I want to be. Okay.
Nice.
So I went to Georgian College for veterinary technician, and I worked in general practice for 5 years as a registered veterinary technician after that. And then I started to kind of feel like I needed more. Like I wanted more with being in the animal world. I wanted more for my families, for my patients. Like I wanted to be more. Um, so I discovered Heart with Wings, and Dr. Laura basically took me under her wing. She's taught me everything that I know, and it was like I found my spark all over again. I've rediscovered my passion and my wonder for the veterinary world, and I don't know. It's exactly where I'm meant to be. It feels like I've discovered myself all over again. I feel like I'm very lucky in that way.
The world and the universe always finds a way to take care of itself, I find.
It feels like it, doesn't it? Yeah.
So what pets do you have at home? I'm just curious.
Oh, good question. So I have two cats, Winston and Oliver. They're 3 years
Nice.
old and they're coops. And then I've got a Old English Mastiff named Sadie, and I've got a Greater Swiss Mountain Dog named Kira. I'm a glutton for punishment. We've always had big dogs in my life, and
Those are some big
can't
dogs.
yeah, I can't stop. I'll always have big dogs in my life. If my husband would let me, I'd have like a Great Pyrenees. I'd have a Newfoundlander. I the bigger the better. The bigger the face, I just want to squish it.
Nice. Yeah, I've got a Australian Shepherd. He'll be 3 in
Oh,
April.
what's his name?
His name is Jax.
Oh, that's a good name.
And then I got this guy who's sleeping next to me.
Look at him.
His
He's
name is Rambo.
scared. Put me down.
I have to keep him up here though, because if the doorbell rings, or if somebody comes close to the doorbell and he's down there, he'll go off and he'll set my other one off.
Oh yeah. Well, how else are you going to know that people have arrived if they don't tell you in multiple times in every possible way?
Right. Well, just not good when you're trying to do podcasts on Mondays and Tuesdays. So
Yeah, I appreciate that.
all right. So are there any myths, or are there any like misconceptions in your line of work?
Oh, for sure. I think for me, and I know I kind of touched on this a little bit. I think the biggest one is just that we are the same as every other veterinary practice. Yeah, I think in any situation, I think the biggest myth about our practice is, and this one's kind of a tough one, is that for Heart with Wings. I'm sorry, I'm stuttering over here because I'm just trying to think.
Take your time.
I think the biggest myth with Heart with Wings is that we only, and obviously we've talked about this a little bit, is that I think with Heart with Wings, a lot of people are under the impression that we only provide end-of-life care. And I think sometimes it's forgotten a little bit that we do provide that senior and quality of life care as well. A lot of the times when I'm arriving with my families, something that they mentioned, they need reassurance, that it is time that they are making the right decision, which I am trained to do and help them through that process. But I just always wonder if they had known that they could have reached out to us a couple months earlier, and we could have provided a quality of life assessment, and we could have talked them through the process, that maybe they would be more prepared, maybe they would feel more confident. Because when it comes to our quality of life assessments, it's not just your usual, like I said, 20 to 30-minute appointment. We put 2 to 3 hours aside for that one family to sit down. Oh no, we take it very seriously. We are sitting down and we are starting from the very beginning. What are your concerns? What are your goals? We talk about boundaries. Boundaries are really important when it comes to a family member because, for example, some people feel like they would let their baby go, and they would help them, as in provide end-of-life care, if they could no longer walk, if they could no longer stand on their own. Whereas some families feel differently. So it's really, really important to review boundaries, goals, and then we walk them through what are you watching for? Like I mentioned, talking about pain. How do you recognize pain in your pet? Because a lot of people don't know. A lot of people are kind of expecting their dog or their cat to tell them, to vocalize their pain.
Right.
When in reality, that's actually usually when a dog or a cat is literally vocalizing their discomfort, they are past the point of just being in pain, and they're in severe pain. Usually that pain has actually started way back, because there's a scale of 1 to 10 of pain. And well, that's what they've kind of broken it down into. And so usually by the time they're at the point where they're vocalizing, they've actually been in pain for quite a while. So if people just knew that that's a resource that we are, other than that final moment, there were also the moments beforehand and through that transition, then maybe we could be able to help people more understand what their pet is saying without them having to actually vocalize it. Because it's really hard. The way our dogs and our cats communicate is totally different from us,
You're right.
but they do communicate. And if we could help, I just wish that we could help every family understand what they are trying to say, and then maybe just help them through that process and know that we're more than just an end of life resource. We're also a before end of life. We're also a resource to help. That's what we provide as well.
100%. I was going to ask you, what's one thing that you wish people would notice or know about your business? So that
I'm like 5 steps ahead, apparently.
Okay, so let's switch gears here. Let me ask you, when you're not, helping families ease that transition for their pets when it's, coming to end of life or at end of life, what do you like to do for fun outside of work?
Outside of work. Oh, it's a good question. I'm working really hard at taking time for myself. I think everybody in the veterinary world, we're very much givers, and we're movers and we're shakers, and we really struggle to sit still. All we want to be doing is stuff, constantly moving, constantly helping. I really struggle to detach from Heart with Wings at times where I'm like not actually working. I'm constantly looking at the schedule. I'm constantly reaching out to family members, asking how they're doing, even outside of work. So I'm really working on just like slowing down a little bit and
Okay.
taking more time for myself. So I've really started reading. And I know that sounds really like basic and silly, and it's like, okay, yeah, so she reads, but I do. Like, I've just discovered that there are so many really awesome books that are out there right now, and I have just started reading on a constant basis. And so I'm finding that that's just helping me sit down and stop and put down the phone, put down the emails for 5 seconds, and just
All right.
take time for myself, which is really nice. With, of course, a cat here and a dog here, so never
Yeah.
too far from the animals.
That's a must, right?
It's
Oh,
essential.
very nice. I mean, you got to find ways to recharge your battery, right? For me, it's playing video games.
Oh,
It's
okay,
a way for me to
that's
disconnect, and you do 6 podcasts in a day. You're just fried, or you're going out and talking to business owners. You're networking. You're doing whatever you're doing in your life, especially on your side of the fence too. It could be mentally draining in what you do, and there's got to be ways that people need to kind of find that happy balance between work and not working, and things to be able to disconnect so that your mind is not spinning, because that's when you're gonna light the candle at both ends, and you're gonna burn out.
Exactly. And I find that when I do start to kind of get a little burnt out, because it happens, and I do start to get a little tired, I just feel like I can't, I'm not connecting with my families as much as I could be. So I recognize how important mental health is in regards to what I do. I go to therapy. I take my time for myself, because if I'm not emotionally balanced, then how am I supposed to be emotionally balanced for the families that I'm helping? So I just find that as long as I'm keeping myself really open and sincere, then I'm able to be the best possible, RVT that I can be. So it's so, so, so important.
Have you ever had a life moment, like a challenge or a hardship in your life that you overcame, and because of that, it made you better, maybe made you stronger for it?
I mean, I think everybody goes through certain moments in their life where they, have to step outside of their comfort zone or do something that is a big risk. I remember when I worked at an animal hospital in Toronto. I was working under somebody who would provide end of life care without prior sedation. So basically, what that means is that we're just helping the pet without giving any pain management or giving any sedation, so that they're feeling comfortable. And I was a baby RVT. I'd just come out of school. So it was really, obviously it was hard for me because it doesn't really feel appropriate. And it didn't really feel like
Right.
I was helping an animal in the kindest way possible. So I actually ended up telling this person, I said that I wasn't going to keep working with them if I kept moving forward with this process. And this was very much a person who had the ability to fire me. And as a starving RVT, that's a big risk. That's a huge risk. But for me, advocating for my families and advocating for the patients, like, was just so much more important and so much more. It meant so much more to me than even having a job, which I don't know if I would have said that again after I lost my job, but they ended up completely changing their protocol. And now they provide pain management and sedation prior to providing end of life. So I feel like that made a really big impact moving forward, because that wasn't only just like helping me walk away feeling like I advocated, but it also helped the families moving forward to have a really beautiful experience with their babies. So I don't know, just for me, like, that, as terrifying and racking as that was, when I'm in conflict, I get like really red and mottled. Like, you can totally tell it starts from here and it like works its way up and I'm like, but it was just, I don't know. I walked away from that feeling so much more confident about myself, and then my knowledge that I can advocate more than just what's, expected of me, and that I am an advocate for my families and their pets, because that's everything that we are as RVTs for sure. But in the animal world in general, we are the advocates because we speak for those who can't speak.
Wonderful. And if there's anybody else that wants to try to get a hold of you guys at, whether it's early in the process or maybe it's coming near to the process, what's the best way that people can reach out to you?
It's a great question. So we actually, we're very modern. We do have Instagram and Facebook. So we're Heart with Wings Barry on Instagram, and we're Heart with Wings, Dr. Coulter's Veterinary Services on Facebook. But then, of course, there's always our website, heartwithwings.net. So it's Heart with Wings, not Hearts with Wings. And and of course, if you ever need us or want to reach out to us, calling us on the phone number on our website or emailing us. We work really hard to just constantly be monitoring our emails. We're not open technically on the weekends, but we try really hard to monitor our emails over the weekends, because we just recognize that there's just not always a perfect time to reach out, and sometimes it's really sudden. So we work really hard to just try and be as available as possible for our families.
Oh, phenomenal. Thank you very much for coming on the show. I would classify a very important business. We are all pet owners. Everybody loves their pets. You guys provide a service in a time of need to comfort people, to comfort the pets. You do great work out there, and we're really happy to have you on the show. Thanks a lot for doing this.
Thank you so much, John. Have a lovely day.
You as well.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Midhurst. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpmidhurst.com. That's gnpmidhurst.com, or call 705-413-3775.